In a small, forgotten town stood the Old Pines Hotel, a place once grand but now worn down by time. There were many stories about strange events and disappearances tied to the hotel, but none were as chilling as those surrounding Room 104, a room no one ever left unchanged. A young paranormal investigator named Sarah heard the tales and, determined to find out the truth, booked a stay in room 104 the moment she arrived. The sky darkened and a cold wind blew. The hotel was creepy, but it was room 100 for that call to her, its door slightly open as if inviting her in. In the empty lobby, Sarah met the hotel's only worker, an old man named Mr. Grayson. He handed her the key with a grave warning. Once you step into room 104, there's no turning back. No one leaves that room the same. Sarah, brushing off his words, was eager to prove that the haunting was just a myth. That night, Sarah set up her camera, ready to catch any ghostly activity. The room felt strange, the air heavy with something unseen. As the clock struck midnight, the temperature dropped sharply and the lights flickered. A faint whisper floated through the room, just loud enough to make Sarah's skin crawl. When she played back her recording, the whisper was louder. It was saying her name over and over until it became an eerie chant. She turned off the recorder, her heart racing. She could feel eyes on her, but when she looked around, the room was empty. Sleep didn't come easily. The bed was cold, as if someone had been lying there just before her. The whispers returned, growing louder, and she heard footsteps pacing outside her door. When she looked, the door creaked open on its own, and she saw a pale figure standing in the hallway, its eyes hollow and its mouth twisted in a silent scream. Asterisk the second day asterisk. Morning brought no comfort, but Sarah wasn't ready to give up. She spent the day digging into the hotel's past and learned that room 104 had a dark history. Years ago, a young woman named Evelyn was found dead in the room, her body twisted and her face frozen in terror. The mystery of her death was never solved, and since then the room had been said to be cursed. As night fell again, Sarah prepared herself for whatever might happen. She set up more cameras around the room, and once again the air grew heavy and cold. The whispers returned, louder and faster, and the room's temperature dropped until frost covered the windows. The bed moved on its own, and Sarah felt a cold hand brush against her skin. The lights went out, and in the darkness, Sarah saw Evelyn standing at the foot of the bed. Her eyes were hollow, and her mouth was stretched wide in an endless scream. Sarah's camera captured it all, Evelyn's ghost reaching out, her fingers growing longer as if trying to pull Sarah into the shadows. Asterisk the third day asterisk. The next morning, Sarah was shaken but still determined. Reviewing the footage, she saw the terror in her own eyes. She wanted to leave, but something kept her there, a force she couldn't explain. Mr. Grayson knocked on her door, his voice trembling as he whispered, "You should leave. The room doesn't let go easily. It wants you just like it wanted all the others." But Sarah was obsessed. That night, she locked herself in the room, ready to confront whatever was haunting her. She turned off the lights and waited in the dark. The whispers began again, now mixed with the sound of sobbing Evelyn's sobs, filled with pain and anger. The walls seemed to close in on her, the room shrinking, the furniture move by itself, the bed dragging itself to the center of the room. Sarah tried to get up, but an invisible force held her down. The room spun, and Evelyn's voice grew louder. I was innocent. I didn't deserve to die. Blood started to drip down the walls, covering them in thick, red streaks. The room was alive with Evelyn's pain and anger. Sarah screamed, but the room swallowed the sound. She felt Evelyn's cold breath on her neck, felt her hands gripping her shoulders, pulling her into the bed, into the darkness. Asterisk the final night, asterisk. By the fourth night, Sarah was a shadow of herself. She was pale and exhausted, barely able to keep her eyes open. The room had taken over her mind. The whispers were constant now, a never-ending chorus that drowned out her thoughts. She no longer knew where she ended and the room began. She recorded one last message, her voice shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears falling down her cheeks. "I couldn't save you, Evelyn. I couldn't set you free. The room, it won't let me go." As she spoke, the door to the room slowly opened, revealing Evelyn's ghost, her face twisted with sorrow and rage. She reached out to Sarah, her fingers cold as ice, and dragged her into the darkness. The camera captured all Sarah's final moments as she was pulled into the bed, disappearing into the mattress, her screams silenced by the thick, suffocating dark. The next morning, when Mr. Grayson opened the door, Sarah was gone. Her belongings were scattered across the floor, but the bed was perfectly made, as if she had never been there. He sighed and closed the door, locking it behind him. The room was silent again, but it wouldn't stay that way. The whispers would return. They always did. Room 104 remained vacant, its dark secrets waiting for the next person who dared to enter. The haunting would continue, claiming more victims, as the spirits of the past refused to rest. Asterisk, conclusion, asterisk. Room 104 wasn't just haunted, it was cursed. It was a place where the past and present collided, where the spirits of the wrong and the innocent were trapped in an endless loop of pain and despair. Sarah's story became another chapter in the hotel's dark history, a warning to anyone who thought about staying in room 104, where the living and the dead coexist, and escape is impossible.